purpose of the meeting is for another vote on the building on Cleary Drive. I'm going to turn it over to Tom Brennan and go from there.
Okay, we had an extensive meeting a week ago, which went on for 2 hours, and it was really an exercise of the kind of democracy we should be having. I mean, it was wonderful, and a lot of things came out. And I thank the police department for coming forward. And this is so complicated an issue in so many ways. It's simple, yes, but it's also, there's so many things. We've got to think about land development. We've got to think about the police. We've got to think about vehicles. We just paid $175,000 for a dump truck. I mean, that's the way life is today, and we've got to protect these assets. Then we've got to live with the DEP, then we've got to live with our own, interestingly enough, we have to live with our own land development and subdivision ordinance, which is a tough ordinance. We can't expect our citizens to do it if we don't do it. I'm going to say something. I'm going to, first of all, try to clear something up that I thought had been cleared up. And it has to do with Bill Grant's involvement with the building. And I confess I made a mistake. Early on, there was no concern. Everybody thought that this was going to be an easy decision for the supervisors, a unanimous decision by the supervisors. The biggest issue, which we thought was a big issue, was trying to get the boundary line clarified. And that's not an easy thing to do, but we got it done. And then, you know, people's opinions change and they evolve. But early on, my job is to serve my supervisors and to protect them as best I can. I never wanted anybody to ever claim that Bill Grant was acting improperly or getting some advantage out of this. I wanted to protect him. So I said to him, recuse yourself. Bill, we don't need your vote, and if it ever happens that we need it, well then you can come in and vote to be the tiebreaker. I want to explain something to you. I've done the title search for this property. It's owned by Hildebrandt Leasing. It's a partnership. It's not an LLC. I've done the title work on it. There is no Bright Star, whatever the hell it is, excuse me, whatever it is, has no interest in the building. The only entity with an interest in the building is Hildebrandt Leasing. Okay. Bill was once part of Hildebrandt Leasing, and his interest, he was bought out. So then I went and checked the Corporation Bureau of Records and saw under the fictitious name Hildebrandt Leasing, clear as day, that he was bought out to make certain that there are only 2 partners in Hildebrandt Leasing. That's a matter of public record, and he's not one of them. Then I called his lawyers. He goes to other lawyers than me. but they're good lawyers. And just to make sure, because the person who's on the hook for this is me. I had to tell the Department of Agriculture that Bill didn't have an interest in the building, and that I will certify that, or actually my title insurance company will certify to that. I have to give a title insurance policy to the township when they buy the property, certified. So I have 1,315,000 reasons why I want to be right on this issue. Now, I would get asked in the grocery store or something of that nature, and I just thought there were just people just generally asking questions, and they'd say, well, Tom, why is Bill recusing themselves? And I'd say, well, it's because in an abundance of caution, and we want to disclose everything, but his son has an interest in it. And now I know his family, not well, but I know his family, and I said, he has no son. Well, then his daughters. Well, his daughters. Well, one of the daughters worked for Bright Horizon, which was a tenant in the building. Just a clerk working in the darn building. And they're out of the building. They're no longer the tenant. I mean, and you try to explain it, and you think you got it squared away. But when people have an opinion, just human nature, it just sort of nags and nags. And every meeting, I would have Bill read the darn thing, which started as a practice because I was just trying to protect him, and also to disclose to everybody that he once had an interest in it. I don't know how else to oh, and the other thing that I thought was so obvious, the idea that, you know, every once in a while these things come up because they say, oh, he's going to get a benefit out of selling the building because he still has an interest in the building. Well, first of all, that's not true. He doesn't have any interest in the building. But if he did have an interest in the building, I mean, that building is going to sell. If he did, he was going to get that interest out of that building. It doesn't have to be to the township. And Larry Levinson is here. I have had so many phone calls with the attorney, wonderful man, wonderful gentleman, very good lawyer from North Carolina or South Carolina. Each face saying, let me get the property in the township. Let me do this, let me do that. Each time, and I'd say to them, you're going to sell, you know, if it doesn't go through, you're going to sell that building anyway. Come on, let's, you know, help with the township and all that type of things. I would never have to have, fortunately, they kept agreeing with me. But last week when I was here, I was at my last begging for them not to put the market on it. And it's kind of ironic, but people are calling me saying, Tom, you know, if the township doesn't buy it, will you represent us? I mean, it's the oddest thing, and I say I represent the township, you know. And so the whole idea that somehow, if Mr. Grant had an interest in this property, he needed it to be bought by the township it's so wrong. But things have a life of their own. Nobody's bad here. Nobody's bad. These things just develop. Okay, so I want to get that out of the way. I also want to get out of the way that, you know, we are graced with having a supervisor who is about to be 50 years a supervisor. And you don't get rich by being a supervisor. You know, you don't retire with a big pension. They don't keep your salary going, and even if they kept their salary going, it would be $250 a month. I mean, it's not really, and it's an awful lot of pressure on you at all times, and you're trying to do it. And also the fact that, you know, he comes from a tradition that Dallas Township doesn't borrow. It just, you know, we've always done it this way, and it's magnificent. You all heard the shape that Dallas Township is in. It's great, and it's done it. But I remind him, well, you know, there was a time when people didn't think we should have DAMA. There was a time when DAMA shouldn't be doing garbage collection. There was a time on and on until we evolved. And also, I've done an awful lot of work as an attorney for banks. And I become so familiar with the concept that Mr. Grant was pointing out so well the other day. You do a little bit of leveraging. You don't mortgage the farm to the, but you use other people's money, especially when it's 3.5% or thereabouts for 30, 35 years. That is incredible. And I'm not afraid. I always say if I knew finances, I'd be on Wall Street, not a little office on Pier Street. But the point is, the interest rates will go up. Will go up, and we're locked in. It's fabulous. And if worst happens and they go down, fine. We have cash. We'll pay it down. And in the meantime, we're holding our cash and we're earning interest on it. Things like that are just incredible. The next thing I think I want to say is, I knew this wonderful woman who always told me that if everything was perfect, you'd be in heaven. By implication, if you're not in heaven, things aren't perfect. I know we love our township, and we think it's pretty darn good, and it really is pretty darn good, but nothing is perfect, and nothing is the timing. Yes, there's the possibility of this, the possibility of that, the possibility, but nothing is perfect. Nothing can be where we say, this is it, this is it. I hope we all get that day when we live in a place where this is, well, I won't pretend to be there, but in any event, we'll go on that way. And so I think that there are all those things. So The other thing that impressed me was how overwhelming the information that we received was. The efforts of our engineer, Tom Doughton, Ryan Doughton, and Doug Trumbaugh. Doug Trumbaugh, I mean, you're talking, you know, top drawer. I mean, in every way, with the architect looking at everything. We have to come to a point in time when we have to make a decision one way or the other. Now, the other thing that I thought was so broad, I know there was a lot of very, very capable people here the other night, you know, all right, it doesn't go so good. We sell. We sell here, we sell there. We're not locked in. You know, this is life. This isn't a decision where we're putting it in blood and we're saying, we will never change, we will never change. I don't think we're expected to do it that way. As I said, Frank has been here for 50 years, knocking his brains out. It is incredible that this gentleman, his son Robert, in the first month and a half of his being supervisor, is just to be asked to do this. And it's kind of overwhelming, but you know, he just sits there and he listens and absorbs it. And he also is so mindful of one of, I wish I knew everybody's name, one of the gentlemen at the end the other night who said, you know, what are our key things? Our key things are safety. We've got to have our police in good shape. We've got to do that. We've got to keep our equipment. You know, we don't have to have an army, thank God. We let other people take. But what we have to do, we have to do, and we have to do well for as long as we can. You may recall that last week, when we were coming down to the vote, I suggested maybe we would postpone it for 48 hours. It's not my job to vote. I don't have the courage to run for election. And I say that every time. These are the people who don't run for an election. Whether you win or lose in an election, it takes courage to put your name out there. So I don't want to tell them what to do. I shouldn't tell them. I can't tell them what to do. But I could also feel the overwhelmingness of it. And I thought if we could just have a break, just a pause. It didn't work out. But the concept was in my mind, at least, that let's take a moment to see where we are. I asked if we could reconsider. Now, I want to make something clear. Just like I don't have a crystal ball on Wall Street, I don't have a crystal ball here. What I'm going to try to do this is in 2 steps. And the first step is to ask for a motion that says we are willing to reconsider the vote that we took last Monday, the 12th. If that is voted down, if that motion doesn't pass, okay, then that's it. That's it. If we say, all right, we will reconsider it, then the next motion will come. And that motion will say, basically, I rescind what we did last Monday night, and instead, this is our vote. And that will supersede the previous vote. So it's going to be a 2-step way. And all I can tell you is life is a surprise. We'll just see how it plays out. Now, another factor is, and you know, it's not only dealing with the trying to keep the sellers there, but we're dealing with the Department of Agriculture. The Department of Agriculture has a political base to it. Even if we had a vote of 2-1 and it passed, the Department of Agriculture says, well, we don't want to spend our money where there's not unanimity as to what you're doing. For that reason, on each of these votes, I'm going to be asking to have Mr. Frank Wagner, vote. Mr. Robert Wagner, vote. And then I'm going to ask Mr. Grant to vote, so that we will have the opportunity of having unanimity. And I will be able to say to anyone who wants to Monday morning quarterback me that, but I didn't have my, the Bill Grant was not the deciding vote, if you follow what I mean, okay? You know, and I've said this years ago. I was a draftee. And you know, you're E1. You can't get lower than a draftee. But I ended up.
I was RA.
Oh, okay. You were, yeah, it's regular Army. I was the draftee. But I ended up in just an incredibly wonderful position working on the reversion of Okinawa to Japan. You know, it just only the government's computer could do something like that. It just worked out that way. But the Japanese, I came to understand they had a lot of really wonderful customs. But the one I love the most is once a vote was clearly known, once it was in place, you know what they did? They all voted unanimously. And the concept was so that once that's our vote, we go forward as this is we're all behind it. I said what I wanted to do, and we're proceeding. Now, one other thing, if I may, and I realize I've talked for a long time here. This process will make us stronger. When you started talking about why do we do this, why do we do that, and those kind of questions, we did really, really look at everything. It wasn't so much only the building, it was everything. It was a painful process, and it was a difficult process, and people really came together. But you know, I think we as a group, we as a municipality, as a first-class township, are going to be stronger and better for it, and we're going to be prouder of it. Not that we don't have so much to be proud of as it is. If the supervisors have anything further to add to what I've said, please feel free to say it.
Ready for the motion.
Okay, the first motion is a motion to reconsider the motion of February 12th, 2018, not to purchase the property at 105 Lieutenant Carey Drive. Now, you're not making the final decision here. All we're doing at this point is to say we're going to reconsider that. May I have a motion, Frank?
I'll second it.
May I have it seconded? Okay. Now, do we have a vote on that motion? Do you want to reconsider what we did last Monday?
Yes.
Yes.
Right. And that's unanimous, and Bill was there. Now, the next step is, this is where the rubber meets the road, as the expression goes, is that the thing? Okay. I'll ask for a motion, and Frank made the motion, Robert seconded, and okay. The motion which I will again, out of seniority, and you're the chairman, Frank. The second motion will be a vote to rescind the vote of February 12, 2018, to not to purchase the Lieutenant Clary Drive property, but to proceed to the purchase of the property at 105 Lieutenant Michael Clary Drive, upon the terms and subject to the conditions of the agreement of sale, which the township has dated February 28th with Hildebrandt Leasing. May I have that motion?
You have a second.
Okay, and do you second the motion? Okay. All right, now, we're going to vote on that motion. If you don't accept that motion, then you have it rescinded, and we're back to where we were. If you vote in favor of that motion, then we have rescinded what we did on February 12th, 2018, and we will proceed to the purchase of the building pursuant to the terms of the agreement of sale. May I have your vote? Frank, would you vote on that?
Yes.
Robert, would you vote on that?
Yes.
Bill, would you vote on that?
Yes.
Okay. It is a unanimous vote. The vote of February 12th, 2018 has been rescinded. We now have an affirmative vote for the township to proceed with the purchase of what I call the Hildebrand parcel pursuant to the agreement of sale for the commercial real estate dated February 28th, 2017, which we entered into with Hildebrand Leasing. Now, part and parcel of that vote is, I think, and because I'm dealing with the people, that's one important peg which we have here. We're not forgetting the peg of what we're going to do here. That has to, I think we all understand that we will then be proceeding with all the things that have to be here so that we can have the township, not perfection, but the best we can have as of this moment. And I thank you.
Tom, I'd like to say one thing for the record, and to Frank and to Bob. You know, leaders have to make tough decisions in their roles. You know, Frank and Bob, both of you, revisited the information and made the decision to move this township forward. You know, I applaud your leadership with this issue and looking to the township's future. So I really do applaud that and thank you. You deserve it.
A 35-year loan, first loan we ever had for Dallas Township.
Frank, I'm a numbers guy and it'll work out.
But-
But you would have had a loan either way, right?
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Do you want to adjourn the meeting?
I make a motion, the meeting's adjourned. We had all public comments.